Thank you all for coming this afternoon. We are here to announce that our suspect from this morning, Joshua James Edwards, is now in custody in the Escambia County Jail. I want to introduce also Chief Deputy Chip Simmons from also the Escambia County Sheriff's Office and Mr. John Molchan from the State Attorney's Office. Each one of us will give a brief presentation, and then we'll open the press conference for any questions you may have. This saga started last night, approximately 2300 hours, 11 o'clock p.m. for the civilians, at New Warrington and Jackson. There's a Circle K located there where Edwards carjacked at gunpoint, our first victim. With the carjacking, he drove around and they went in and out not only of the state of Florida into the state of Alabama throughout the night until approximately 7:49 a.m., to which they went out on Finch Line Road where he carjacked another vehicle from another female victim, left the first victim who was sexually assaulted, left that area and went down into the south part of our community, in and around Blue Angel Parkway and the Walmart located in that area. We would like to thank Lieutenant Walt Matthews, who's present today in his shift, for the first responding officers. When the call came into the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, it was approximately 8:15 when we made a response. The 8:15 phone call after the 7:49 phone call was first our victim who was dropped off, and the second carjacking occurred. They called the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, and of course units going to respond to that. The next call that came in at 8:15 was from a gentleman who had given Edwards a ride, and because of his suspicious nature, decided that he should call 911, which then he was put in contact with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. At that time, again, our units responded to Blue Angel Parkway and the Walmart out there. Before I turn it over to Chief Deputy Simmons, who was one of our responding officers to that area, I would also tell you that Mr. Edwards is a member of the Aryan Brotherhood gang, and also the weapon that he used in the commission of these felonies has also been recovered. We also have a positive ID by the victim. Chief, you were with the responding units at approximately 8:15.
Yes, sir, thank you. We got word that, as the sheriff mentioned, we got word that the suspect, an armed suspect, was potentially inside Walmart. We had an individual locked in a bathroom at Walmart and was being unresponsive to deputies that were outside. The deputies that were there, led by Lieutenant Mark DeWeese and his shift, had already set up a perimeter around Walmart. And so that's why that they made the decision to go ahead and evacuate to some degree the Walmart there, again, because we felt like this armed suspect was locked in the bathroom. It ended up not being the suspect in the bathroom, but upon watching the video, we determined that the suspect had indeed left 1 minute prior to our deputy's arrival. So Lieutenant DeWeese and his group, again, some of them are here in the room, they moved their perimeter a little bit wider. Major Hobbs and I happened to be working with the media in the parking lot. We returned to make one more look at the video. Major Hobbs came back to my car and said, it looks like it was only one minute, so why don't we go back around the strip mall, which is across the street from Walmart. We were in that area whenever we noticed the suspect actually walking out of a wet wooded area towards a strip mall that we were sitting upon. Major Andrew Hobbs was the first one to see the suspect, which enabled me to go around and to actually arrest the suspect. And as the sheriff said, the suspect was positively identified and the weapon was recovered. I would say that, like to say that this was a team effort, that immediately upon our arrival, again, the patrol shift had the perimeter set up, and then whenever we had to move the perimeter to a little wider, once we determined that the suspect wasn't actually in the Walmart anymore, they did so quickly. And we had Deputy Mitch Stevens and Deputy Stephen Kay were actually working through the perimeter, and we think that's what caused the suspect to not only throw away the handgun, but also to come up in the area that we just happened to be in. So again, it's a very good job, very professional, very dedicated job by the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. And I will say one more thing, when we're giving the updates to the media, it's because we felt like this was a very dangerous suspect. We knew he was armed, we knew he had committed a couple of felonies already, and our fear was that he was going to be on a bit of a spree. So then we met the media in the parking lot, got the information, got a picture of the suspect, but we didn't give up there. We continued to work and work, and within, about 2 hours, I guess, of the initial phone call, we had a suspect in custody, and I believe the sheriff, I can't remember if you mentioned the charges or not.
Yeah, I'll mention the charges. And again, I'd like to make an on-camera apology. Mark, forgive me, I stated the wrong lieutenant. I sincerely, I had something going on with Lieutenant Walt Matthews earlier, and I inadvertently wrote his name down. It was Lieutenant Mark DeWeese and his folks that, again, made the initial response. And again, Mark, thank all of you for doing that. Currently, and we'll have the State Attorney's Office, of course, Mr. Bolchan, update us on any charges because the case is ongoing. Might also point out that Edwards was just released from prison in November of 2018. He hasn't been out of jail that long, where he served a state prison term of 3 years, 5 months, and 12 days. But currently, he's currently charged with 2 counts of carjacking, 1 count of sexual battery, 1 count of kidnapping while armed, 1 count of possession with a firearm by a felon, 1 count of a person committing or attempting to commit a felony while armed. And again, the case is still unfolding, and with that, we'll ask Mr. John Molchan to come up and give his observations from the State Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Sheriff. I think, first of all, I want to thank and praise the Escambia County Sheriff's Office for their rapid response and apprehension in this case. This could have been a far worse scenario than we have presently. What will happen with our office is our office will assign a special prosecutor to examine and work with the Sheriff's Office to put together basically the best case that we can to make sure that this individual does not walk as a free man on this earth ever again. We will have a number of sentencing options available to us. A number of the crimes that he is charged with presently carry with it life sentences, or the potential for life sentences. He will also be qualified potentially in this situation, from what I can tell, as a prison re-releasee reoffender, which carries with it many maximum sentences for each of those crimes, dependent upon the degree and dependent upon what they are. He will be looking at life on those as a prison re-releasee reoffender. The judge will have no discretion if he's convicted as charged and we prove that he's a prison re-releasee reoffender. He will have to be sentenced to life, which is basically, if we put together the kind of case that I think we have, that is the appropriate place for him to be, which is behind bars forever.
And we'll open it up for questions with just a couple of cautionary notes. We cannot and will not, by statute, of course, make any mention of any sexual assault victims. We are required by statute not to release that, so please do not ask any questions about the victim in this case, who was a victim of sexual assault. Whether you're speaking with the panel that's up here or if any of our responding officers choose to speak with you after the press conference, no one is allowed to release that information. And with that, we'll open it to any questions you may have.
Where did you eventually find the weapon, and what type of weapon was it? I think you said a handgun?
Chief?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, there is, across the street from Walmart, there's a strip mall. I don't know the name of the strip mall, but it is across Sorrento, and we were positioned behind that, and that's where we took him into custody. The gun was found not far from that location, behind a wooded building. I'm sorry, a storage building. And it was a handgun, that's all I'm going to get into right now.
I know earlier I think you might have had divers out. Was it in the water or?
Yeah, if you know the area, there's again, across from Sorrento and behind the strip mall, there's a large wooded area, but it's also a large pond and looked to be a swampy area. That's what led us to that area, thinking that may be where the suspect went. Sure enough, when he came back up, we felt like there may have been discarded the weapon in that location, but ultimately we located the weapon actually under a storage building, right near where he was taken into custody.
Chief, can you talk about placing him into custody? Was there any kind of...
Again, as he came out, there were some deputies that had, because the perimeter was well set up and established, they were working their way forward or towards us, towards our location. Major Hobbs again first noticed him at some distance because I was still in my car. I was able to get closer and again approach him. He was. I'm not saying he was resisting. He was complying to a degree, but we had to actually put him on the ground. So again, no one was injured, and everything went pretty much according to plan. But it felt good if that's your question. It's we were aware of the crimes. We have abductions. We have kidnapping, basically. We have sexual assault. We have 2 carjackings. And you know, when you're in a position as a career law enforcement officer, you're in a position to actually put your hands on someone, put them on the ground, place the cuffs on someone. And it's a bit of closure that makes you feel like you know, you've done your part.
Yeah, if your question was who first noticed them, the deputies, the responding deputies were actually, you know, doing a search area, a grid area, and were coming through the woods and actually alerted Major Hobbs. They were yelling at him, that's him, he's coming in your direction. And then that's when the major and the chief, you know, intersected with him. So, yes.
I just want to make sure I have my story straight first of all, and then follow up to it. So there's a carjacking with
Yes.
a woman in it, and they were in and out of the state up into Alabama.
Right.
Came back into Florida, and then at
Right.
7:49,
Right.
he let the first victim go.
When he carjacked the second vehicle.
When he carjacked
Right.
the second vehicle,
Right.
yes, sir. And now in between that, the man who called and the second phone call reporting to you at 8:15, was he trying to like get a ride in between that first?
Yeah, what occurred with the second car that he carjacked, he didn't know, obviously, when he did it. The lady that he took the car from and released his victim, the car was almost out of gas, and so he drove the car a short distance and actually wrecked the car, got it off the road, and he was out hitching a ride. The other citizen comes along, gives him a ride, notices the condition he's in, the dialogue and discussion he had with him, and when he let him off at the Walmart out on Blue Angel, he called the Escambia County Sheriff's also and said, I just had a gentleman in my car and it's just something not right about him.
And that was the second carjacking.
That's right, that was the second carjacking. Any other questions?
Can you tell us more about Mr. Adams? Is he from the area? And if you can go more in depth about his criminal history,
You mean Mr. Edwards?
or Edwards?
Yeah,
excuse me, sorry.
Mr. Edwards. John, how much, can we release that to the public right now, or would you prefer we not?
I prefer not.
Okay. We won't delve into his criminal history. I would suffice it to say it's extensive.
Was this activity gang related, or was this something, you know, just the individual actions that this individual chose to take?
We have no indications that it was organized gang activity. He is obviously a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. He has the associated tattoos for that coming out of prison. But we have no reason to believe at this time that it has any gang. There is no gang connection with the crime that he committed today and last night.
Are the tattoos, the neck tattoos that we can see, are those what are related to the gang?
No. There's some that are on the other parts of his body that are related to the gangs.
Do you guys think that he may have been under the influence of any drugs?
Do we want to release that information, John, about his current condition? No? Okay, Chief.
Yeah, during the time after the abduction, the initial abduction, just before midnight last night, when the sheriff mentioned he was going back and forth into Alabama, he was also looking for drugs and doing drugs. But that's all we're going to get into, what happened between that time, except for the assault.
I'm also wondering, you know, where these carjackings happened, did anyone at those places report any suspicious activity? See
No,
anything?
what we have reported are from the victim and the second carjacking, and then the gentleman who gave him the ride.
Like at the gas station.
Right.
She was taken.
Did we receive anything from, I don't think we did. from
No,
the
all we
gas
know at this point was, again, the abduction took place last night, and then that car was crashed near Bill Dixon Park. And then they walked for a short period of time, and then they carjacked a second car. And again, after that car ran out of gas, and then he had to get a ride from a individual in a pickup truck. That's who gave us the information that they were at Walmart.
I think your question was, did the Circle K or someone call and say, hey, we observed? No, we didn't. To the best of my knowledge, we didn't get any reports on that. My officers are shaking their head in the background, and they did the first initial response, and the answer is no.
Was he violent at the time of the arrest, or did he pretty much see that he was cornered and surrendered?
Yeah, I think that he knew the gig was up. He came out. I think we did surprise him, but we were able to come upon him pretty quickly and with force, and took him to the ground pretty quickly.
There wasn't much of a chance to fight. I mean, you had two officers that were on him, and then you had the officers coming from the wooded area, so it wouldn't have been much of a fight.
Just one thing I want to mention, in following up on Renee's comments with the drugs, voluntary intoxication in the state of Florida is not a defense to crimes. So whether he's using drugs or not, if he's voluntarily doing it, it's not a defense, doesn't have anything to do with this So we're, that's just not a non-issue for us as far as that's concerned. His behavior seems to indicate that he knew right from wrong based upon everything that we've seen already.
Was there any sort of connection between the suspect and the victim? Was he an acquaintance, or do you think this was completely random?
Well, we believe it was random. We know of no connection at this time between the suspect and the victim.
Do we know if he legally, owned the weapon? I know you said he's a felon, so he can't have one.
You just answered your question.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, that's it's a very good question. No.
I just want to clarify, was that first victim left on Fence Line Road in Alabama? He left her there?
When he carjacked the second car, he left the victim there, yes.
That you brought up, voluntary intoxication wouldn't affect the charge or a crime committed. Are you at all worried with such erratic behavior, driving in and out of states, dropping off people, picking up other ones, and with the heavy nature of facing life in prison and insanity plea?
I don't, unfortunately, I have to say this, what you consider to be erratic behavior is what we see on a daily basis with our criminals. He's a criminal. This is consistent with that kind of behavior. So as far as concerned about that, no.
And if you guys can reiterate kind of how you are feeling, knowing that you were able to take him into custody, and it seems like it could have turned out a lot worse from what you guys have been saying.
Well, of course, we have a victim that will carry this burden for the rest of their lives. But of course, we take great pride in what we do, the men and women at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. We had a violent felon reoffender, obviously, now in our community that is now no longer, able to bring harm to our community. So through the efforts of the men and women at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, and now we've I always tell folks you can look at law enforcement in our criminal justice system almost like a sport. The sport is, any team sport. And so we've now lateraled the ball to the state attorney's office. Our part in this is done, except for the, the follow-up paperwork and then working, with the attorneys now to get this case to court and let the state attorney do the job that they do. But we're very happy to say that, our community, at least for the moment, this violent reoffender is off the street. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming.